Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry. You're getting real live insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
This episode is brought to you by Set for Life Insurance. Protect yourself against life setbacks with Set for Life Insurance. Set for Life Insurance gets you disability and life insurance at a reduced cost with their exclusive discounts. Now that's why I use them. Visit www.setforlifeinsurance.com and tell them Dr. Darko sent you. What's good, Docs Outside the Box Nation? It is Dr. Nee Darko, D-Doc Outside the Box, and welcome back to episode 58 of Docs Outside the Box. Got a good one for you today, as always. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to give you some homework. I want to make sure that you put on your to-do list to go back and check out episode 57 with Dr. Mike Natter. Now, I learned through the survey that I had out a couple of weeks ago, even until a couple of months ago, that we have a lot of pre-health students as well as students who are in professional school, whether that be medical school, pharmacy school, dental school, what have you. And I think it's easier for them. I think just in general, I think it's really easy to identify, to relate to people who are very successful, but maybe a couple of steps ahead of you. What I mean by that is, it's easy to relate to someone who's at step 5 as opposed to trying to relate to someone who's at step 100. So I think it's really good that we had Dr. Mike Natter, someone who's in residency, early on in residency, and has had some issues trying to get into medical school. I think a lot of you all will really identify with him. And I found it really inspiring to hear his story about persevering through multiple rejections in medical school and then finally getting in and now, really being known for his artwork, which is phenomenal, and not being afraid to study and do things his own way. So I think that's definitely a must listen. But for today's episode, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Antonio Webb, and he is an orthopedic surgery resident who's actually finishing this year. And he is not only an orthopedic surgery resident, he's a combat veteran from Iraq. He is an author as well as a motivational speaker. And I'm a big fan of the concept. I'm not sure if you guys heard this, but there's a concept out there, a quote that says, reach one, teach one. Once you reach a certain status or once you are able to obtain a certain type of goal or skill, you go back and you teach people the same thing, right? So today you're going to hear Dr. Webb's miraculous journey from a difficult upbringing. I'm talking about multiple family members in jail, violence, to being in combat in Iraq, to now becoming an orthopedic surgeon. It's a phenomenal story. Antonio, he's a native of Shreveport, Louisiana, and he writes about growing up surrounded by drugs, gangs, violence, and deciding that the military was for him, then having an interest in medicine and now wanting to be a doctor. And this is all in his book, Overcoming the Odds, and you can find it now on Amazon. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes for you to pick up that book. So I got a chance to read Dr. Webb's book, and I found it to be an easy read. I found it to be very compelling. And I really just like that at the end of each chapter, he has life lessons that we all can learn from at the end of the chapter. He's also taken his motivational speaking as well as his successful tips over to YouTube, where he's become very successful. And I'd say about a month ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that, he amassed already over 1 million views on all of his videos. And his videos range from, how to make money outside of medicine to successful and efficient study tips for pre-meds as well as medical students. So I like his vibe. I love the fact that his goal is to make sure that young people who grow up in a situation similar to him from similar backgrounds know that through his talks, know that through his book, know that through his YouTube videos, that you can accomplish any goal that you have. So some of the things that we are going to discuss on this show, some of the things that you're going to learn is the importance of having positive friends in your life, why being a role model to kids is very important to him. He's going to compare and contrast living in Shreveport, Louisiana, to when he spent some time in Iraq. He's also going to talk about why he's starting living outside the box so early in his career. And he's got a really surprising view on failure. You're not going to want to miss that. And then we're also going to talk about how YouTube has helped him become visible all over the world, and even some of the financial implications that I'm sure you all want to get in on. And then, of course, as with all of my guests, he's going to answer hashtag I'm not just a doc. Also, don't forget to follow me on social. We're at Docs Outside the Box on Instagram, at DocsOTB on Facebook and Twitter. And you can use the hashtag I'm not just a doc when sharing. I always search Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram for those hashtags. So if you got something really interesting, I'll go ahead and repost that if you use that hashtag. So go ahead and just screenshot wherever you're listening and make sure you let people know and share this episode. I count on you guys every week to help grow this community, and I really appreciate seeing those mentions each week. All right, so let's get on with this interview. Let's hear from Dr. Antonio Webb. Dr. Antonio Webb, what's up, man? Welcome to Docs Outside the Box.
Yeah, thank you, man. What's up, Darko? How you going? How you doing, man?
I'm just overall excited about what you're doing with your life and what you're doing with mentoring, speaking, and now what you're doing with YouTube. But once again, man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, we got a lot of stuff to cover. So look, before we get so in depth with you, man, let's take a step back. Let's learn about Antonio Webb. You're now obviously Dr. Webb, but let's learn about Antonio, back in the days of Louisiana. Tell us what it was like to see you grow up, what life was like when you were like, let's just say the 8th grade.
Yeah. So in Shreveport, it was actually I grew up a pretty rough and challenging background. At that time, Shreveport was ranked the 8th most dangerous city in the U.S. So I had a lot of friends that were either going down the wrong path, including family members. In my personal family, immediate family, I had 3 out of 6 people in my family in jail, like at the same time for like different reasons. My little sister was in prison. My little brother was in prison for armed robbery. I gave him juvenile life. And then my mom was in prison for something different. So that was the type of environment that I grew up in. That's kind of what I thought was the norm kind of growing up. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do now. So to help others kind of avoid that path.
Man, I think obviously having, just mature parental guidance is really important. Like, how did you stay, on the straight and narrow through this whole process when people in your family are going and being incarcerated or, and found in different portions or difficulties in life? How were you able to kind of just stay out of trouble?
That's a good question. I don't think I necessarily stayed out of trouble completely. I did get into some trouble growing up, kind of hanging around the wrong crowd and hanging around wrong people. But I was actually introduced to a medical magnet program in Louisiana called the Fairport Medical Careers Magnet Program. And then I got accepted to that program. And after that program, I just fell in love with medicine. And that's kind of the reason why I'm a doctor today. And that's what kept me off of the streets and into the books. Me and my best friend, we kind of agreed that we would, stay away from everything else that was out there and keep our head in the books. And that's exactly what we did.
It's funny that you mentioned not only on the show, but also you write about, just the relationship that you had with your friend, because, there's different examples of, when you create that type of relationship, that type of pact with friends, you really can accomplish a lot, whether it's, the trio in Newark, New Jersey. I think one is a ER doc, one is a dentist. I don't know if you heard about that. I think it's called the Pact, I believe. Yep. And then there's one, I believe, that's in a group of friends who are in the New Orleans area. They're a group of people who grew up in, a rough area also, but they created a pact also. And one is OB, one is an anesthesiologist. I forget what the other one is also, but it's amazing how sometimes not even within your family, you can find that support, but with a friend. So that was really, I think, something that I took to heart in the book. And once again, your book is called Overcoming the Odds: From War on the Streets in Louisiana to War on Terrorism in Iraq. how I successfully overcame the odds. This is a great book, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, man. I think it's important for. I always tell people that you can't come something that you don't see. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about what I do now, because I didn't have any. Sorry, I didn't have anyone to look up to, or I didn't know any black doctors at that time growing up. So, and now I'm able to, feature these people on my channel and reach out and try to connect people to certain mentors. So I think it's a phenomenal thing that these other doctors are out there and people putting their face out in the forefront, because that's what our young kids need to see. They need to see someone who looks like them, who dresses like them, who talks like them, listens to the same music, and then if they can see that and that you can do it, and they can do it as well. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes I think people who are not from a minority background may have a hard time understanding that. But I think it's really important, like you said, to really emphasize the fact that, it's really important to see role models who look like you so that you can understand that something is attainable, right? So, for example, like Wonder Woman was such a seminal movie because it showed, women, or particularly a woman, in a very powerful superhero type fashion that we haven't seen ever before, right? And so many people, so many women, really resonated with that idea. And I think similar to like kind of you and me, where we grew up in urban areas, oftentimes you don't really have that doctor mentor, that doctor role model who looks like us. So for me, I fell in love with the concept of Heathcliff Huxtable, right? And obviously for you, you didn't have that. So that's why you're coming back and you're giving back. But I just want to know, like, why are you so passionate about that? Like so early in your career, right? Like you obviously are finishing up your residency. Why not wait longer to go ahead and start this process? Because oftentimes we see people wait until they get mid-career or even towards the end of their career. Why now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I was going through the years and on that constant struggle, trying to get into medical school and trying to figure out that path of how to get to this point, I always told myself that once I became a doctor, that I would reach out and help as many people as I can to get to that point, because I realize how important it is for someone, like I said, who looks like you and speaks like you to be able to be on the forefront and just show others that it can be done. So as soon as I graduated from actually before medical school, even I was complete with medical school, I had to put a blog out, and that's what kind of got me into writing my book, because it became so popular, just to let others know kind of the day-to-day life of a medical student, as well as going through the years to become an MD. So I think that's kind of the reason.
And then obviously from there, you put the book out, and now you're on YouTube. And let's learn more about your page, your YouTube page, and what you do.
Yes. So I started the YouTube. I think it's been almost about 2 years now, and it's basically just to showcase kind of what goes on in the life of a medical student, resident, a physician, MD, because I realize that's what young kids want to see. They want to see what we're doing on a daily basis. And I then came up with the Careers in Medicine series, where we feature various professionals in medical careers, like a PA or a nurse practitioner, veterinarian, transplant surgeon, general surgeon, just to showcase these careers, because people don't really know that that may be an option for them unless they see something. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of created the page, and it's actually became very popular. I think we just hit over 1 million views this past week. So
really,
yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Nice. Now, one of the chapters in your book, you talk about failure, and I really wanted to focus on that on this show, mainly because like when you're becoming a doc outside the box, or even for you as you chronicle in your book, it's a very difficult process, right? The chances of you getting into medical school, depending on where you apply, how you apply, can be rather daunting. And you had to apply, I believe, more than 2 times?
Yeah, 3 times.
3 times you had to apply, but you kept pushing, you kept being persistent. But on this show, obviously, we're telling stories about doctors who are doing things outside of the box. And oftentimes, being a doctor, once you get into medical school, the path is, for the most part, It's paved, it's clean. You just follow these things and you will be a successful physician. But oftentimes doing things outside of the box, doing things outside of medicine can be very difficult because we're not really trained to do those type of things in essence. So obviously you're going to see a lot of failure. So I don't want you to give up all the details on your book, but tell us about failure, what you've learned from it, because I find it very fascinating, your approach to failure.
Yeah, so I always tell people that failure is something that you should expect. There are a lot of successful people out there who have failed trying to reach their point. I'm a big Michael Jordan fan.
Oh man, we're
There's a lot of
gonna have to end this interview, man. you know I'm a Knicks fan, right?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who say that LeBron is the best NBA player, but I'm a big MJ fan. And when Michael Jordan was going through the years, when he was actually in high school, he actually was kicked off of his freshman basketball team. So I think if he would have gave up basketball at that time, I'm not sure if basketball would be the same today. But so I always tell people to expect failure. You're going to fail, and I think the greatest, the biggest things that you can learn in your life, I think, come from failures. I think one of my professors in medical school stated that failure is not in the falling down; it's in the failure to get back up and try again. So
that's a good point. That's a real good point.
Each thing that I fell upon in my life, and even to this day, when people they think that once you get into medical school or once you become a doctor that all that stuff ends, I think it just begins, because you have a whole new set of things that you're faced up against. And even as completing my end of my residency, I still face failures to this day, but I try to analyze each of those failures and why did I have a hard time passing this test, or why did I struggle in this operation, or why did I fail in this particular aspect of my life, and see what can I take away from that and try to better myself in the future. So, some people, they look at failure and then they just give up. But I take a totally different approach, and I anticipate failure, and I actually look forward to failure, because that's when you learn the most. So I think failure is
it means you're trying
something
too.
that absolutely, yeah. I think failure is something that you should anticipate is going to happen, and you just what matters most is how you respond to that failure.
So look, you're finishing up residency. Obviously, you got other co-residents and so forth. Do they ever look at you kind of weird, like, man, who's this guy I think he is? He's like got this YouTube channel. He's out there speaking. You're on TV and so forth. You ever get like crazy looks from your co-residents? Do they support you? Keep it 100. Tell us how it is.
Oh, absolutely. I think I get that all the time. People make jokes at work. They say certain things, or they would say, "Oh, Webb, give us a motivational talk before this exam or before this lecture." But just like you said before, I think people they don't understand kind of the struggle to get to this point. I didn't have any family members who were MDs or doctors at that. My mom didn't. She barely graduated high school. My dad did a little bit of college, but didn't finish college. So I didn't come from a family that had mom's a doctor, dad's a doctor, sister's a doctor, uncle's a doctor, and that path is kind of fairly simplistic for him. I struggled along this way. So that's the reason why I do what I do, because I realize I want to help others kind of get to that point and avoid going through some of the things that I did. So, yes, absolutely. They do make a lot of jokes. There are a lot of, side conversations about what I do, but I just try to keep my work and everything I do outside of work separate, and just while I'm at work, I focus on, trying to become the best surgeon. So
I love it. Love it. So let's take a further step back. So we got the 8th grade version of Dr. Webb. So, what I found interesting also about the book is just your transition from high school to going into the military. And, you talk about that, and thank you very much for your service. Talk to us about, being in Balad, being in, war-torn, portions of the Middle East. And, tell us about that situation to go from, Louisiana to what life was like in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it was actually in Balad, Iraq.
All right.
But
I'm sorry.
it was,
My bad.
yeah. Both situations and environments are very chaotic. Growing up, there was a lot of gangs around in Shreveport. I had some family members who were part of that and kind of been around situations where should not have been in, where there are a lot of guns and a lot of things that that I could have gotten into a lot of trouble. But same environment in Iraq was very chaotic. It was a very dangerous time. The army took over a location right outside of Baghdad, and we set up our tents, basically makeshift hospital, and we set up our tents, and that's where we took care of the wounded soldiers and as well as the insurgents. So the base that I was at was called Camp Anaconda. It's called Mortarville because how many attacks that we received on a daily basis. And at that time, we were in Iraq. That was the most attacked base in Iraq at that time. So very dangerous. We got shot at maybe 3 or 4 times a day, mostly with rocket propelled grenades. But both environments I thought were dangerous, and I kind of tied that into my book to talk about kind of how I kind of dealt with both situations. So being in Louisiana as well as being in Iraq.
Now, your book, Overcoming the Odds. One thing I find that's different with your book is, oftentimes people do autobiographies of themselves and, they're very compelling. But I think what's really interesting is you offer advice at the end of every chapter.
Yep.
Why do you decide to do that?
I think it's important to let kids know kind of the mistakes that I made and things that I went through and how they can avoid, that same, path or mistake. So I just wanted to talk about what I would have done differently or what I learned from that process. So just like we talked about the failures of getting into medical school. And after the chapter, I talk about that you can expect failure, and the failures is that's a normal part of being successful. So, which I didn't know, kind of growing through the years, and I took it very hard my first 3 years of trying to get to medical school, and then got a slap in the face when I got rejected from every school that I applied to. So, but I did exactly kind of what the book talks about. It is analyze why I did not get into medical school and why did I fail, and I kept working it until I got it.
So let's because there's pre-meds who listen to this show, and the majority of pre-meds who are going to go into medical school are going to be non-traditional, which is what you were. So talk to them right now, the ones who are having a difficult time right now, because I know they hear it a lot, like Dr. A, took 3 years to get into medical school. Dr. B took 5 years. I myself, took me 2 years to get in. Like, talk to them and help them kind of get through that process, because rejection is very difficult. And, it's very easy to hear from a doctor who's made it that, hey, if you keep going, you're going to, but talk to them right now. Cause some people right now may be getting rejection letters. Some people may be feeling, kind of despondent. So talk to them right now if you can.
Yeah, so I think being in a similar situation that I was in, most people when they're going through the early years, this may be actually the first time. You go through high school, you make good grades. You go through college, you make good or decent grades, and then you apply to medical school, you get rejected. So this is for some people is actually the first time that they actually experience any type of rejection. So and then they take it really hard and they don't know how to react to that failure. But I think it's important to understand why you experience that particular failure, and then try to learn from it and try to improve in the future so that doesn't happen again. I always tell people, if you want to go into medicine, if you want to be a doctor, if it would have took me 9 times or 10 times of applying 10 years straight, I would have applied, because that's how much I wanted to be a doctor. That's how bad I wanted it. And if you want something that bad, I think eventually you will eventually get it. You just have to keep trying. And I would apply 10 years straight, because that's how bad I wanted to be a doctor.
Dr. Webb, for real though? Come on, 10 times?
Absolutely.
It was mad expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I wanted to do. I think people who go into the NFL or they want to get into the NBA, those kids are, they try over and over again. They may go to the D League or they may go overseas, but for 6, 7, 8 years they're trying to get into the league. So You got to have that same mentality when becoming a doctor. So if you want to be a doctor, I think the schools would have recognized my name. Like, here's Dr. Antonio Webb again. We've seen this name for 5 years straight. But I would have kept applying because that's how bad I wanted it. So if you want something that bad, just like Eric Thomas, motivational speaker, always talks about.
Oh, you talk about the hip hop preacher.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Man,
if you want something as
powerful.
bad as you want to breathe, then you will eventually get it. So I think just keep trying, keep your head up, be persistent, analyze your failures, and then keep going.
So what was the lowest point during that process? Because I read in your book where you talked about even applying to PA school, becoming a physician assistant, you got rejected.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened there? And why did you decide to apply to PA school? And then what kind of brought you back to applying to medical school after that?
Yeah, so I was actually in the same situation where I talked about people who have not experienced any type of failures before. And that first time I applied to medical school and I got rejected, I was like, man, maybe medicine is not for me. So I even had some self-doubt, and I even thought that I should forgo the medical route. But I snapped back into it and kept going. I was actually I was at work one day in the military and saw one of my colleagues. He was in college and he had this mountain of books, a lot of books. He was sitting there studying while he was at work. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go through that, do all that. But I think there's some times where some things may come up where you may be sidetracked on your final goal. And I think that was maybe one of them. Everything happens for a reason. And I think I'm glad that
That's the truth right there.
PA school, because I probably would not have reached my ultimate goal, which is becoming a doctor. So everything happens for a reason. I think those first number of years that I applied, didn't get accepted. Maybe God was like, hey, this is not your time yet. Keep trying. So everything happens for a reason.
So when did you start to realize, like, man, like, what I'm doing with this book and what I'm doing with YouTube, it's starting to catch on. You're starting to get, appearances on, the Tom Jordan Morning Show, on different affiliates on Fox and so forth. When did you start to be like, man, like, I like this, or this is like really serious?
Yeah, I think mostly when I get emails from students or from people from different countries that email me and say, hey, I read your book and it's really, changed my life. I did have a student a teacher who emailed me and said that she had my book like on her desk. And then at the end of the day, the book came out missing. And I guess one of the students stole the book because he wanted to read it. And then she thought it was hilarious that he took the book from her desk and then finally admitted that he stole it. So, but I get lots of emails from people from all over the world, from Iran, China, Japan, even a lot of places here in the U.S. And I just realized how impactful it is and how helpful it is for someone to see someone come from an environment like mine, and it's something that's relatable, and still become successful or reach a particular goal. So that's kind of when I knew that it was something that can help a lot of people and change a lot of lives.
So, Dr. Webb, one thing that I think is really interesting is, YouTube video is king right now, obviously.
Yeah.
There's so many different video sources out there, whether it's YouTube, Vimeo, what have you. Why did you decide to take, in essence, your message to YouTube?
I think it's important to be able to reach a platform not only here, kind of locally, but all over the U.S. and all over the world. And I think YouTube allows you to do that. You can actually look at your statistics on your website from YouTube, and you can see like where is everyone kind of viewing your videos. Most of them are here in the U.S., but I have a pretty large viewership in like Russia, China, Canada. So lots of different parts of not only here in the U.S. but all over the world. So that's kind of the reason why I chose YouTube.
Let's go further in a granular level if we can. All right. And, I'm not trying to get into your pocket, so you can tell me, hey, Nee, get your hands out my pocket. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to know, like, do you monetize your videos at all?
Yeah, I do. And I think for the people who don't know what that is, that's basically where you watch a video on YouTube and then there's an ad that pops up. And if you have a YouTube has it set up where you have to have a certain amount of viewers. You have to have a certain amount of subscribers before you can even become a partner with YouTube. And once you become a partner, you're able to monetize your videos, which means that if someone clicks on one of the ads in your videos, you get paid a percentage of kind of what either they buy or if they watch like a movie trailer or something like that. So it is very profitable if you have a successful YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I've seen like the beginnings of your video, at least the videos that you started 3 years ago or even 4 years ago, I believe, on your site, and you've like been able to transition to better quality. I'm sure you're using better cameras, so I'm sure you've been able to use that money to kind of reinvest in making the channel a lot better. Talk to the audience about that whole process of obviously making some profit from that, and just kind of like like what's how far can you go with this?
Oh man, so you got people out there that are making millions of dollars. So I actually have a program where I can purchase that I can see basically how much a certain video has gotten paid for that video. And some of these like music videos that have like 200 million views, they're getting lots of money from those videos. And through this program, I just found this out maybe a couple weeks ago that you can see like how much they're actually getting paid or kind of an estimate. But some people, this is what they do for a full-time basis. Some of the channels that I follow, this is the only thing that they do. They make videos and they upload them to YouTube, and it's either monetization or sponsorship, how they make their money, and they do this for full time. So I think if you have a very successful channel, you can do this kind of full time. Some people do it. A lot of people do it, actually.
It's really amazing because I look at some of these pre-meds, some of these med students, and even young attendings, and they have these social media followings that are just ridiculous. Like on Instagram, they're pre-meds and med students who have like thousands, of followers, and YouTube people are doing pre-med counseling similar to like what you do. And, obviously you have so many subscribers and stuff. So it's really nice to see that you're able to kind of, in essence, not be afraid to monetize that, to use, that platform to help further, help other people and stuff. So that's great to know. So besides YouTube, like what other things are you doing that's really cool outside of medicine?
So I think obviously with my book, Overcoming the Odds, that can be a income kind of generator from the royalties that you receive. And that's based off of how many books kind of you sell that month. You get royalty checks once a month. I do dabble in real estate kind of here and there, kind of early into it. Try to get like my brother who has 14 properties, but I'm not at that level. I do have a few real estate properties here in Texas. And I have, property managers that do all of the managerial things that because I'm so busy kind of with work and everything else that I'm doing. Public speaking, I do maybe 2 or 3 talks a year, and that's very profitable as well. For a 1 to 2 hour talk, that can be a couple $1,000s that you can make just by giving a talk at a corporation or a big school. So as well as, there's affiliate marketing. So there's a lot of ways out there, and I actually have a video out about ways to make money outside of medicine. And if you do a lot of these things, you can make a large percentage of your income from just doing things outside of medicine.
Man, we got to get that link. So make sure you send me that link, and I will share it in the show notes, because I think a lot of people who listen to this show, it's we're kind of trying to demystify the whole process of just making money, having a side hustle, just kind of detaching yourself from being, only able to make money in the hospital, right? It's trading time for dollars. So, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, because I think, with the way medicine is heading, we don't know, especially in private practice, when your paychecks can be fluctuating, or you may take off work for a couple days or a couple weeks and you're not getting paid. So I think just having multiple sources of income. I think when I read books, that's what the most successful and the wealthiest people have talked about, is having multiple sources of income. So that's why I think it's important to kind of see what else is out there. There are a lot of things out there that you can do outside of medicine to make a little side money and income.
So what's next? What happens next now? Once you graduate from residency, obviously you're gonna get a job. Like, how are you going to, in essence, kind of traverse that balance between being an excellent surgeon as well as, your other life as a YouTuber? And maybe I shouldn't say a YouTuber, but just, motivational videos through YouTube, public speaking, motivational speaking. Like, how is that going to work out in the future?
Yeah, so I already, even to this point in my residency, I'm already having to juggle, work, life, and balance, and trying to keep up with residency as well as things that I do on the side. But I think it comes down to what you're passionate about, and I think people ask me all the time, how do you have time to do all this and travel and do everything that you're doing? But if you're passionate about something, and something that I'm really passionate about is basically mentoring and helping people reach their goals, you'll find time for it eventually. You just have to sacrifice and certain things that other people may be doing on their off time that you may not be able to do. But I'd rather be doing this. This is what I love to do, and my plan is to still become a great surgeon, and that's foremost, and then do some things on the side. So.
Okay, cool. So listen, we are towards the end of the interview. Let's do some fast fire questions. You just tell me what comes off the top of your dome piece. You ready?
Okay, awesome. Absolutely.
All right. So what's one thing you want people to get from this podcast?
I think it's important for people to know that to expect failure, that any point in your life, even to this point, after everything that I've been through, I still experience failure, that you have to really sit and analyze and see why you went through that failure or why you failed, and just take from that, take some notes, and ask yourself, what can I do to better myself in the future? What can I take from this particular situation and use that to better myself in the future? So I want people to take away from this podcast that, if I can do it and go through everything that I've went through and still reach and get to this point, that they can as well. So that they should never give up.
Yeah, man, that's a good point. I mean, for me, I one of my episodes, I can't remember the episode number, but I basically, in essence, talked about my year of, I think it was 2016 or 2000, I can't remember, but it was themed my year, the year of failure. And I went into the year calling it the year of failure because I knew that in this year I was going to fail so many different times, and that meant that I was going to try new different things. And I failed at a lot of things, but I actually turned out to be one of my most successful years ever. And it's the reason why is because I just kept trying things. And yeah, I failed, but who cared, And, I'm really glad that you mentioned that point. And that's the emphasis of what I want the audience to learn, is that you're never going to grow unless you try different things, right? And if you fall flat on your face, like, so what, right? Like, let's, get back up, brush yourself off, and try the next task. So I really love that answer. So knowing what you know right now, what kind of advice would you have given to yourself as a pre-med?
I would say that basically, no matter what it takes to kind of get to your end goal or to reach your goal, just do it. Like you said, there's a quote out there that says you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I think if I would have, that first rejection that I got that first year, just kind of gave up and not kind of keep on with my goal of becoming a doctor, I think I wouldn't have gotten to this point. So I would basically tell myself to basically never give up and stay persistent, keep your head up, and keep God first.
Love it. Love that answer. All right, let's get silly for a quick second, because obviously we're keeping it cool and keeping it professional. But dog, man, like, I saw that post that you sent.
Yeah.
What's his name? Dr. Love.
Oh, Dr. Love.
So there's a doctor. Yeah, for the audience who are listening, there's a doctor, or excuse me, there's a fake doctor in Florida who goes around. I think, what is he, like 16 or 17 years old, and he's treating people.
Yeah.
He's treating people. He's been arrested multiple times. I think his name is Dr. Love. But Dr. Webb, I can't front. You look just like this guy, or he looks just like you. Yeah, everybody ever tell you that?
Oh, absolutely. I get that all the time. I think his name is Dr. Malachi Love. I think he actually had his own clinic, and it was just hilarious that when I was watching the video of him kind of showing his clinic around, He said, "This is kind of New Life, New Birth Center. Come on in, and I'll show you around." He has his assistant.
Wait, he had a clinic?
Yeah, he had his own clinic. Yeah, yeah. It was called New Life, New Birth Center. Don't ask me how I know that. That guy's not.
How you know this? How you know this, man?
But yeah, he had a full functional clinic. He had staff in the front desk. It was all over the news. But yeah, I get that all the time that we look alike. But yeah, that's
man, it's funny, man. But I hope seriously, like on a real note, I hope he gets some help. But I just wanted to just really quickly just keep it 100 and let you know, like, bro, man, he looks just like you.
Yeah, but Dr. Love, man. So.
Man. All right. So look, you're a resident. You're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got multiple surgeries you got to do. You're waking up early in the morning, but then also you're doing YouTube videos. You're also speaking. What's one piece of technology, maybe not technology, or what's one life hack that you're using right now to make life easier? How do you keep yourself productive?
I would say basically from my military training is basically be disciplining your day and kind of planning your day out before my day even starts, or even majority of the time before my weeks even start. I know not exactly, but I know kind of an idea of what I'm going to do that particular day and what I need to accomplish. So what I do is I write things out, like for Monday or so. I have surgery from 6:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, and I need to study. I have all this written out. I need to study from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and I need to review some questions and then complete some research. So I think just writing down exactly what you need to accomplish that day and just allocating time for that. And if you only have 30 minutes to do your studying or your reviewing because you have to prepare for surgeries the next day. You just have to be very efficient in that time and eliminate, distractions, social media, and stuff like that. So I think just being very disciplined and very regiment in your kind of my day-to-day life, and I think that's been very helpful for me.
Now, look, obviously with this book, man, you putting your life out there, your background, your upbringing, and your thoughts on just life in general. So I don't know if if you're going to be able to answer this or not, but what's one thing that you're proud of, right, that nobody else knows about? Got you on that one.
I would say when I was growing up, I did have a speech impediment. So I used to talk really fast and stutter a lot. So I would say that what I used to do, especially when I got to a point where there are a lot of, successful people around me, I would just analyze, watch them and see like how did they pronounce words, or why did they say that word, or why did they phrase something a certain way. So that's what I have worked on for a number of years, and that's a good question. I've never told anybody about this, but and so I actually
come on, Docs Outside the Box, man. You end up spilling your soul, man.
Yeah. I actually had a student, a pre-med student, that emailed me and asked me about that, and he said that he had a stuttering problem. He was wondering would he be able to still be a doctor. So I kind of told him, hey, I went through a similar situation when I was growing up, and
So wait, he was concerned about his dialect and the way in which he was speaking.
Yeah, and he had a stuttering problem as well. He was stuttering a lot, and he was wondering like, hey, would I still be able to become a doctor if I still have this? And I thought that was pretty good to be able to email him back and say, hey, I went through the same thing that you're going through right now, and yes, you should still become a doctor. So I think that's one thing that I'm most proud of, that no one else knows, and I think that's a really good question.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, and thank you very much for your answer, getting real.
Yeah.
So look, this is the last question, the last sentence that I ask my guests. All right, it's I'm not just a doc, I'm a. So Dr. Antonio Webb, Doc Outside the Box, motivational speaker, YouTuber. I'm not just a doc, I am
a overcomer and am a believer. I would say those two.
I love it, man. That's a really, really good answer, man. But listen, like this interview was really real. I really like this interview. I really like talking to you. Your book is an excellent book. So how can my guests, how can the audience, how can people in general just learn more about you? So take a time to kind of talk about how they can get in contact with you, how they can learn more about you, and also about your book.
Absolutely. So I do have a website, Antonio Webb, two B's, web, MD.com. So Antonio Webb, MD.com. And pretty much I'm on every other social media site, Twitter, LinkedIn, just Antonio Webb, Instagram, Overcoming the Odds book. So any of those sites, and the book is available through a link at any of those sites. And I would, recommend, or I would say that, once you buy the book and you read it, just bless someone else with it. See a kid that is struggling or a kid that is heading down the wrong path. That's what inspires me the most. So seeing someone get on the right track that was heading down the wrong path after reading my book. And I think that's something that really keeps me going and really inspires me. So just bless someone else with the book after you're done reading it.
Dr. Webb, I'm inspired by you, man. It's been real. Thanks for being on Docs Outside the Box, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. And I'm not sure if this is actually true or not. Like I said, I watched listened to every one of your episodes. And am I the first resident to be on your show? I don't know if I don't think there's any other residents. You may.
Yeah, you may be right, man. You may be the first resident on my show.
Made history today.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, man. There you go. So for other people who are listening, obviously you can affect other doctors and other people's lives. And you don't necessarily have to be an attending, right? And that's one thing that I really, really want to impress upon, my audience and people is it doesn't matter when and where you're thinking about it. You can just be thinking about being a doc outside the box as a pre-med. So yeah, man, you're my first resident to be on the show.
Awesome, man. I love it. Thank you so much. A great show, man. Keep up the great work. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Awesome episode. All right, well, that's a wrap for episode 58 with Dr. Antonio Webb. I hope you enjoyed hearing his outside the box journey. I know I did. I hope you also picked up on his keys to success. If you love this episode, then make sure you share this on social media, screenshot wherever you're listening to this. I want you to share it on Instagram if that's your preferred way of social media, Twitter, as well as Facebook. I really, really love it when you all share on Instagram stories specifically. And remember, you can tag Docs Outside the Box by using the handle @DocsOutsideTheBox or use the hashtag I'm not just a doc, and I'll find it and retweet it. Also, wherever you're listening, make sure you are subscribed. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review, and I may just read it on the next episode. Thank you all for the reviews. I really read each and every one of them. Like I said, they really help the show, and I truly, truly, really appreciate them all. So look, you all, I'm going to catch you all on the next episode, but remember one thing, we only got one life. Let's make it count and live outside the box. Peace.